What's going on, folks? It's your boy Clip Commander coming at you with a set of tech tips in this video. So these tech tips are going to kind of revolve around circuit protection and conductivity. So I've seen a lot of installs come through, and it's not necessarily audio installs. It could have been an air ride install that somebody did, where your powers or your grounds they just will not suffice. Now, I'm not in the business of kicking tires for people, but I am in the business of trying to help people. And I want to educate people if I can. Now, I'm not going to swear that my method is the best method. There are hundreds of other methods out there. But my methods seem to work fairly efficiently every time. So I figure I will share these with you, and maybe I can help the world. Not all heroes wear capes, right? So when I go into the line of circuit protection, we're going to use this car as the example. This is the 96 Impala SS that I'm working on for a friend of mine. It's a modest install, nothing super crazy, nothing high demand. He's not trying to set any SPL records with the car. Just wants to add a little bit of sex appeal to it, and he wants to get a decent sound. That's where I come in. So when I refer to circuit protection, this car is a prime example. I am running a second battery in this car just as a buffer, because stock electrical in vehicles, any kind of amperage that you want to pull electrically, it really works on your stock electrical. So essentially, I'm just using the back battery as a buffer to kind of protect the car's electrical, because as your back battery is going to run down, it's going to slowly bring down your front battery. And then you're going to see your headlights dimming. You're going to see all your lights and shit going nuts. And that's when you know, hey, it's time to back out and let it charge back up. So moving forward, when I talk about circuit protection, I am actually referring to your main run primary wire. Now, this wire is actually just going to run to the battery. It's not going to run to an amp. It's just going to run from the front battery to the back battery. Essentially what I do here is I will run this 4 gauge exactly how you would run a standard amplifier install. Just get it as neatly in the car, get it as far away from any kind of chafe points as you can, and tie back if you have to, use grommets everywhere you have to. Just do that part safely. But what I do when I do these 4 gauge or any kind of run per se, I fuse on both ends. I know a lot of people opt against fusing because they're saying, that's a bottleneck. I understand that. I would much rather deal with a small bottleneck than my car being on fire. And when you have a build like mine, that's a pretty big loss if it catches on fire. In my truck, I have probably 30 to 35 fuses total in my truck to protect my build. I have a little bit more than what this car has, and trust me, I can't afford to build it again. So if I can protect it, I'm gonna. Now, like I said, I fuse both ends of this primary wire. It goes from the front battery to the back battery, and I do that because if you fuse at the front, if something happens with this wire from its route to the battery, all the way down through the car, everywhere it runs to the back battery, if something happens in this wire, you're going to blow this fuse, and you're going to blow the fuse in the back. And what happens is it's going to kill this wire totally, from here to here on the other fuse. This whole wire is going to be dead, and now all you got to do is troubleshoot instead of scoop your car up with a shovel. Now, like I said, I know a lot of people opt against fusing, but it's just safer. I don't know why you wouldn't. It's to me, it's ridiculous. Especially for something like this, I have to put my name on this install. So I want to make sure that I never get the phone call like, hey, buddy, yeah, my car burned up. So if I can prevent it, why not? Plus, I feel that it's just the right way to do something. Now that we've figured out how I'm doing the power wire, let's move on to a ground, which that is something that I have seen a lot of and I have seen a lot of them horribly done. Me, I learned a long time ago that, hey, there's an easier way to do everything. So on your ground, what I'll do is, since this is a full frame car, that makes it so much easier on me. So what I'll do is I will come up with a similar sized ground wire to come off of the negative side of my battery. And what I'll do is I'll run it down to the frame rail. Now I have solidified my ground on the car. And for a subframe car, I'll do a similar deal, but I will go through the actual frame tie where, all the pieces of metal come together and they're all, pinch welded up. That's the thickest part of the body. That's what you want to use. If you're not going to run a separate ground from the front to the back, that is the most efficient way to do it, in my eyes. I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, go fuck yourself. So, moving on. Like I said, I will ground up here at the front on the frame rail. So now my entire frame is grounded, period. It's the best ground it's going to get. Unless you add multiples from the engine to the ground, from the engine to the frame, from the battery to the frame, then you're just getting into a big three. And I'm sure that will come along one day, and I'll show you how to do that too if you do not already know how to do a big three or a big four, whatever. So, like I said, when it comes to my ground, what I'll do is, now that we know the frame rail is grounded, I will come to the back, and where I'm going to ground to said battery, I'll run a second ground right here, right through the trunk pan of the car. Like I said, I use rubber grommets everywhere. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. So, this lug right here is going to go to the battery. All right? Now, when I pass through the trunk pan, I'm actually passing all the way through the car to the underside of the car. Why? Because I am grounding back to the frame rail. Like I said, if you're not running a full run of ground from the front to the back, up directly to the battery, this is the next best thing you can do. And like I said, the same rule applies for subframe cars. If you go through the thickest part, the most overlapping part of the subframe in the front, do the same thing for the back. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, between these two lines right here, this is where my subframe connector and all that good shit is. Like, this is where your trunk pan is welded down. This is where, your C channels are welded together. This right here would technically be the thickest part of your body. So, clean up spot. Boom. Go right through that. And when you are doing this, make sure that you insulate that. That could be as simple as a little bit of undercoat, some, high build primer, any kind of paint, something just to kind of cover it up to keep corrosion to a minimum. So with that being said, that would be my 2 tech tips for this video. And stay tuned for the next video, which I'm sure I'm going to cover something else that has been drastically misled. So keep on basing on, folks.